So for those of you who just came in, what we're doing is we're having people rank the short and long-term goals. So you would have been given some stickers. So come up and place stickers in the top 3 priorities under long-term goals and top 3 priorities under short-term goals. So you should have a total set of 4 sets of 3 stickers. So make sure you come up and finish that up.
Okay, so I think we'll get started. Um, I'd like to first start by acknowledging Selena Winchester from Congresswoman Susan Wild's office. Thank you for being here today. If any other people from public officials' office are here, would you please stand and be acknowledged? Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Um, I, thank you, Robert Vidoni from the city of Bethlehem. We really appreciate your attending. This is an important subject, and people get calls each day about this at their offices. So thank you for joining us in the second of our series of addressing the affordable housing crisis in the Lehigh Valley. For those who joined us for the first summit, welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you so much for coming. I hope you were able to view the information on the first summit that we made available and get caught up. And even if you did not, you will catch up very quickly. We are not here for the sake of just being here. We are in the midst of a serious crisis. And these summits are designed to eventually involve officials who can hopefully help to pass legislation designed to make the creation of or availability of affordable housing a priority. You have neighbors, you have friends, you all have someone that you have met or know who is in the throes of this crisis right now. In cities across the United States, the shortage of affordable housing has reached a critical point. As rent prices soar and housing supply lags behind demand, millions of families face the risk of displacement and homelessness. The impact is felt not only by individuals, but by entire communities and neighborhoods. In my lifetime, I have not seen a lack of affordable housing quite like this before, and I'm probably older than a lot of you. At these affordable housing crisis summits, we will come together to explore the collaborative solutions, recognizing that policy, design, and advocacy alone cannot fully address this inequity. It will take a village, of determined advocates like everyone in this room. We have to keep pressing until someone hears us. We can't give up. Speaking of advocates, if you've been reading the news, I'm sure you've heard the hubbub of something called alley houses. The city of Bethlehem, Lehigh University, Community Action Lehigh Valley, and Community Action Development Bethlehem have been good partners in the initiative. Today's guest speakers are here to tell you a bit more about the concept, as they have been instrumental in making it happen. I'll be introducing them both to come up and speak together. Anna Smith was born and raised in South Bethlehem, where she currently lives with her family. An advocate for neighborhood-driven, asset-based community development and housing justice, she has served as Director of Community Action Development Bethlehem from 2016 to 2020, and from January 2023 to the present. She left Community Action to start a family, expanded that family, and came back. We're not sure if she's just a glutton for punishment or she's just that driven. Ms. Smith is a graduate of Tufts University with a bachelor's in economics, American studies, and Spanish, and received a master's degree in education, culture, and society from the University of Pennsylvania. Wes Hyatt is an architect, assistant professor of architecture at Lehigh University, and co-director of Lehigh's Small Cities Lab. His work is dedicated to imagining how architects can help responsibly shape urban change through place-based design research, genuine community partnerships, resource sharing, and co-creation. He is co-founder of Hyatt Architecture, an architecture practice based in Brooklyn, New York, and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Here to tell us more about one of Bethlehem's proposed strategies to address affordable housing crisis are Anna Smith and Wes Hyatt.
That all the way in the back, so apologies for the moment to get up here. Let's get our slides up. And Control L. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of all the partners working on the Alley House program, we're thrilled to be here this morning to share a little bit about what we've been working on over the past year or so. So as Dawn mentioned, the Alley House program is a partnership between Community Action Lehigh Valley, Lehigh University, the City of Bethlehem, and New Bethany. And it's designed to address our affordable housing crisis by developing a place-based, hopefully regional model for increasing our housing supply, adding variety to our housing stock here in the Lehigh Valley, and creating opportunities for multi-generational living, among a number of other goals. So my name's Anna, and I'm the Director of Community Action Development Bethlehem, and the co-lead on the community action side of the project with Chuck Weiss over here, who is our Associate Executive Director for Housing. And then Wes is the lead from the Lehigh University side. And, you know, I also want to acknowledge our partners from the City of Bethlehem. We've got Robert and Paige representing the city back here. They have been fantastic partners, as well as our friends at New Bethany, who aren't here today, but Mark Riddle and Verone Demieux, who have led on their end. So As everyone here is well aware, the housing market in our region changed dramatically between 2019 and today. And with the pressure kind of being felt most acutely, perhaps right here in the city of Bethlehem at the center of the Lehigh Valley, although certainly felt throughout the rest of the valley as well. And so Bethlehem has historically been a community that offered ample opportunity for families of all incomes to find affordable housing, a place where you could arrive as a new immigrant and get a fair chance at a fresh start, or where you could move back, like I did after 8 years away, and find a place to start a family. And the first step on that ladder of economic opportunity is usually renting a home. When you arrive in Bethlehem or anywhere in the Lehigh Valley, you're probably looking for a place to rent first. And right now in the city, that is an extremely hard thing to do. Our rental vacancy rate is 2%. And just to bring us back to a healthy rental vacancy rate over the next 5 years, our city here in Bethlehem would need to add over 1,000 new rental units. And that rental shortage means that prices are increasing. Basic economics 101, right, tells us that limited supply with a constant or increasing demand is going to lead to higher prices. So at Community Action, we see the human impact of this every single day with the folks who are walking into our offices and calling, asking for assistance in making their rent each month. And, it can be really challenging to hear those stories. And we know how devastating the impact of this crisis is on our families throughout our community. And so if you look at this number up here, every time I look at it, even though I do this work every day and, see this data, the fact that 62% of renters in our community cannot afford their homes is just astounding. 62% of the folks who rent their homes in Bethlehem are paying more than they can afford to. I think something that's really important to highlight about this as well is that this is not just an economic issue. This is an extremely serious racial and ethnic justice issue as well. When you look at the city of Bethlehem, just 30% or 37% of white households rent their homes, but 70% of Latino households and 77% of predominantly Black households are renters. So the burden of this affordable housing crisis is disproportionately falling on our neighbors of color here in Bethlehem, restricting opportunity here in our community. And so, when we say 62% of our households are cost burden, who are these folks? Well, it's someone, as Dawn mentioned, throughout this community, maybe even some of ourselves in this room. If you look at what the numbers tell us in Bethlehem, where the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment is nearly $1,500 a month, you can see that certainly not your average cashier, home health aide, truck driver can make close enough to be able to actually be able to afford that one-bedroom apartment. In fact, if you had two folks working as cashiers full-time in a household, you still would not be able to afford a one-bedroom apartment in the city of Bethlehem. And then what about a two-bedroom apartment? Even our elementary school teachers, our registered nurses, folks who've, gone to college and gotten what they were told was a good job, are not able to even afford a two-bedroom apartment here in the city of Bethlehem. So this is a true crisis, and one that is not sustainable here in the city of Bethlehem. These are folks that keep our community moving forward, that are essential roles. And if these folks aren't able to live here and get pushed further and further away, the impact of that on our broader community is not one that I think we want to deal with. If you look here, just a final little piece of data before I actually get into why we're doing alley houses. I just wanted to show the housing market over the last few years. You will see that line at the very top, that kind of orangish red line on this computer, is the housing market in Bethlehem. We have surpassed Allentown, Easton, Harrisburg, Lancaster, and even Philadelphia's rental prices over the last several years. So we are a more competitive rental market than Philadelphia, a more expensive rental market than Philadelphia here in the city of Bethlehem. And so we're, fortunate that folks in Bethlehem have taken this crisis very seriously. And there's a lot of great work going on to address these challenges. I do want to give a huge shout out to the city of Bethlehem for bringing all of us together under a single data-driven, locally tailored strategy through their opening doors planning process over the last couple years. And, through that process, the Alley House program emerged as one of the many initiatives that we're working on to address the affordable housing crisis. And I do want to emphasize, it's not, what we're working on is not going to solve our problems, but it's one important puzzle piece in a comprehensive strategy. Community Action is involved in many of their other initiatives as part of this collaborative as well, but we're just highlighting this one specifically today. And well, I talked a little bit now about the price of housing. I also wanted to mention, something that Becky Bradley shared with us from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission last time we were here, which is, changes in preferences and different trends in how we are living and how we are choosing to live throughout, the country. And, you see these trends here in the Lehigh Valley as well. So we have a real increase in households living with relatives other than parents and children, multi-generational households, whether by choice or just a matter of affordability. We have folks who are looking to live closer to family. And we also have older adults who are looking to find ways to stay in their homes, to age in place, and to remain in the communities that mean a lot to them as they age. And as a result, you'll see that kind of an interesting advocate has emerged for accessory dwelling units. And so an accessory dwelling unit has emerged sort of nationwide as a way to increase housing opportunity and reduce the cost of new housing by building on existing parcels and gently adding density to while preserving neighborhood character throughout our cities. So the AARP has become one of the foremost organizations advocating for accessory dwelling units, given their benefits for older adults. And so an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, can take many different forms, but the fundamental component or kind of a foundation of the concept is this is an entirely separate unit with its own kitchen facility, whether it's in a basement, as you can see in the picture here, or an addition, or a detached structure, possibly facing an alley. So as you'll hear from Wes in a moment, ADUs and alley houses are not a brand new concept. In fact, they were a vital component of neighborhoods throughout Bethlehem and many other cities, especially in eastern Pennsylvania, for generations. I actually have one in my backyard that was built by the owners of my house about 100 years ago to house a relative. And it's now a standalone home facing an alley right behind my house. However, with the advent of modern zoning, these structures were made illegal in most communities throughout the country. And as some folks here may be aware, zoning is a complicated tool that has a lot of history steeped in exclusion. And so, balancing the benefits of neighborhood control over what can be built next door to you. So like, for example, zoning would protect you from someone starting up a noisy, polluting manufacturing facility right next to your house. But while also allowing for development that meets the needs of our community, it's an ongoing challenge for every municipality. How do you balance those two things? And so zoning is not static, but it has to adapt to the changing needs of a city. And with the affordable housing crisis through the Alley House project, we're piloting the construction of alley houses in West Bethlehem while studying how to thoughtfully implement zoning changes in small to mid-sized cities that would allow for ADUs to be developed. So we hope that our work in Bethlehem will add some needed housing options while serving as an innovative model for other communities grappling with housing challenges. So before I turn it over to Wes, I'll just introduce, who all of our partners are on this project and what exactly it is that we're doing. So at Community Action, we're proud to be building the first pilot alley house in West Bethlehem sometime later on this summer. Hopefully ground will be broken, which will be operated as an affordable unit for about 20 years. Community Action will have a ground lease and be responsible for the construction and maintenance of this new home, while New Bethany will provide tenant placement services and day-to-day property management. The owners of the primary home where this is going to be built will receive a small monthly payment out of the rent. And while we plan to continue constructing subsidized alley houses throughout the city, eventual zoning reform could allow homeowners to build an alley house on their own property for personal use, or to rent out to bring in a little bit of income, particularly for some of our older folks aging in place who are looking to stay in an older home. A little bit of extra income could be a huge benefit in allowing folks to stay in the home in their community that they love. And so, to facilitate the construction of these eventual future homes, our team is exploring financing options in partnership with local banks. So, for our bankers here today, it's something we'd love to chat about. How can we help people to build these, figure out ways to build them, as well as pre-approved plans for alley houses, working with our municipality to make it easier for someone who might want to build one of these. If and when they become a legal option approved by our zoning code. And so I'll stop there and I'm going to turn it over to Wes to share a little bit about what alley houses actually look like, and the details behind our pilot project, which will be coming to life in the next few months or so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Wes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wes Hyatt. I'm an assistant professor at Lehigh, and in collaboration with my research partner, Dr. Karen Pooley, who I don't believe could be here today. We are leading the sort of Lehigh effort in this collaborative project. And before I jump into kind of what alley houses are and what our program looks like in terms of its discrete elements, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here, but also to our partners. Like, I think this project is a really exciting model for what university community partnerships can really do. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we've done so far and what we plan on doing, but it's just such a thrill to see how over the past 3 years it's developed into, well, where we are today. So as I said, I'm leading the Lehigh effort in this program with Dr. Karen Pooley, and what our involvement is really centered on the kind of coordination and working with all the project partners and kind of working around a design vision, right? So the idea of constructing new housing futures around just what that future could look like is sort of what I do as an architect, right? Designing things, right? And thinking about how those kind of design visions might fit in with or rub against and move zoning policy forward. So that's really the kind of basis of this project. And I just want to say, while we, oh, does that work? Sideways? Not working. Hold on. Sorry. There we go. There we go. While we might use the word ADU and alley house kind of interchangeably in this presentation, I like to always focus on the word alley house. You know, we've said the phrase place-based today a lot. And the reason we prefer the term alley house is because really this is a housing type that is kind of native to our communities here in the Lehigh Valley, right? All of us have probably walked down an alley either in Allentown, Bethlehem, or Easton and seen houses right on the alleyscape that feel basically more or less like street-facing houses. This is what we're proposing to build, right? ADU can sometimes sound like a scary acronym that it's kind of hard to like communicate. Alley house might be something that folks kind of know, right? So what we're planning to do through this program is to, well, build more alley houses and to kind of pilot and learn from each successive alley house that we build. We're planning to build up to 4 right now. And then eventually, as Anna said, hopefully that kind of pilot will lead to a broader zoning reform in the city and then serve as a model for the rest of the Lehigh Valley. So the program is made up of kind of 5 discrete elements. We have the model or pilot alley houses, pre-approved plans, as Anna mentioned. Basically, these are a set of plans that will be, we're kind of designing how exactly the technical assistance here will work, but made available to folks at low or no cost to basically lower the barriers to entry for building one of these units. Community engagement is, of course, at the center of this project, right? Talking to folks and figuring out what this might mean to them, how they feel about it, and kind of working within the ideas of the place to make something new. Workforce development, we're hoping in the latter half of this project, as we build more of these units, we can fold in a workforce development piece working with our community partners. Currently, we have student labor working on some of this, and we're excited to be building our first pilot alley house sometime later this year with student help. And then there's the research and reform piece that myself and Karen Pooley are working on in collaboration with the city of Bethlehem, which is thinking about if a ADU or alley house zoning ordinance were to take effect in the city, what would be the sort of best places for that to occur in the city, and the best sort of constraints or freedom within that kind of ordinance. So we're working on that currently with the city. So what is an alley house? Talked about it a little bit earlier. Alley houses are a historic housing type native to the Lehigh Valley. I'm sure we have all seen one across our region. They make use of limited available land by occupying the rear yards of existing residential lots. So we all know that Bethlehem is kind of unique among what you might call, quote, Rust Belt cities, in that there's not a lot of blight and there's not a lot of vacant land. So we need to kind of reinvent how we define land through innovative zoning practices. Down zoning ceased alley house development in the mid 20th century, and sort of all we're proposing to do is to bring these kinds of housing units back into the housing mix. So here's just 3 examples in West Bethlehem, where our pilot project will be taking, our first pilot project will be taking place and being constructed later this year. We have Franklin Alley, Martins Lane, Hanover Street, all alleys with houses that look more or less similar to what you might find on 6th Avenue or 4th Street or anywhere across the city, right? With some minor modifications. There's a thinner sidewalk because it's an alley, not a lot of porches, but you still have the same square footage in the same unit on the alley. And this is just a part of our local built fabric today. So as we said, we're moving forward to build a pilot test house in West Bethlehem. And just to talk a little bit about the process of how we arrived at the site in West Bethlehem, we worked with the city in a kind of GIS mapping exercise to understand where we could do one of these both responsibly in terms of lot size and current zoning, but also affordably. So all the blue lines on the map you see are alleys with sewer access, and all of the orange sort of blocks you see are parcels that meet certain dimensional requirements. I believe our minimum lot width was 20 feet because in our kind of design research, we discovered doing one of these on a lot less than 20 feet wide is actually pretty tough, right? So there's all these kinds of dimensional and kind of utility and rather kind of prosaic kind of design questions that we found out through this research already informing what a new kind of ADU ordinance in Bethlehem might look like. So this is the pilot project site. It's 1604 West Broad Street. The homeowners, as Anna said, will continue living in the street-facing house, while the alley house in their backyard will be rented affordably for 20 years. And those affordability and tenant management services will be provided by CALV and New Bethany. Right here is the garage that will be demolished to make way for a new alley house. And here is the street-facing house where Reginald and Mary Lewis, who are our homeowners, live. Oop, sorry, there we go. Here's another view of that. This is from the backyard, showing Reggie Lewis right there, and Chuck Weiss, who is also here. We were at one of our initial site meetings. You know, just to kind of profile the homeowners a bit, who have been just such amazing partners. They're like not only excited about the potential of having this home in their backyard, and in fact, something that they're thinking about is actually aging in place into that home. So they're in their kind of mid-50s right now, and as they kind of grow older and the unit reaches the end of its affordability period, they're considering moving into that house themselves and renting out the front house, right? So we're discovering all these kind of different ways in which people are imagining occupying these units once they're granted what's really a new property right, you know, to build one of these units. So Reggie and Mary, they're lifelong Lehigh Valley residents with backgrounds in construction and mortgage lending, so kind of perfect folks to be working with. They kind of understand intuitively kind of what we're talking about and are really excited about the program. And they're excited to find solutions to their community's affordable housing challenges, as was demonstrated when Reggie came to speak at the zoning hearing board meeting in Bethlehem about 2 months ago, very powerfully about the project. Just a couple other views. This is the garage that will be demolished for the pilot alley house, and there's looking back at that garage right there. Just a little bit about how long it takes to kind of develop a project like this. We've been kind of going through a process of reflection now that we have zoning approval and are moving forward with the construction of the pilot house, just to think about how did we get here. And really, this project started kind of 2.5, 3 years ago now. At this point, through a series of conversations between myself as a newcomer to the Lehigh Valley and folks that have been working on this issue for a long time, including Anna, Sarah, Chuck, and folks from all of our partner organizations. All of the green dots you see here are community meetings. And this is not all of them. This is all I could find in a quick email search. And you see how those green dots overlap with the yellow lines of which represents grant applications and funding efforts. So we kind of have gone through what just wrapped up over a 2-year period of grant seeking, and we're happy to say that we've received about $1.6 million across 3 different buckets and funding. And as we go forward, the red line is where we are now, which is the kind of pilot project construction, which we're anticipating will wrap up at the end of this year to inform future zoning change. There we go. So as I said, we've received a lot of amazing funding. We were talking about it yesterday. As of like 6 months ago, we were kind of stone-faced thinking, how are we going to build one of these? Where's the money coming from? And then a windfall came in the past few months, including last week. So this slide actually needs to be revised based on what we've learned last week. We received some generous funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to specifically fund the research portion of this project, which looks into kind of how, at a kind of top level scale, how this new ordinance could be implemented in Bethlehem, and then also doing a kind of series of case studies into how small cities, meaning cities under 250,000 people in population across the country, have adopted ADU ordinances and learned from them. A lot of the existing ADU research is kind of based in places like California, Oregon, mostly West Coast cities at a really large scale that are really not so similar to places like Bethlehem. However, lots of cities like Bethlehem are adopting ADU ordinances based on what has been learned in California, right? So a goal of this project is to really tailor accessory dwelling units to local conditions and smaller city conditions like we see in Bethlehem. We received the first earmark or community projects funding grant in Lehigh University history, which I'm very proud of, through the offices of the support of Representative Susan Wild's office and Senator Casey. So I thank you very much. I know you're here. That's just like so amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was to the tune of $850,000, and that will support construction of the first alley house and up to 4, given our current funding after that. We also, as of last Thursday, just received $500,000 from PHFA through their FAIR program, and that will also kind of support construction and programmatic efforts. So it's just like a super exciting windfall for this program that's really kind of getting us into the future. So thank you to like all of you. That's so awesome. That's everyone here is like kind of doing so. So since January 2024, this past January, we received all that funding, had a lot of community meetings to inform residents about the program and solicit feedback about the pilot project. The homeowner in West Bethlehem was identified, as I mentioned earlier, and as of at the end of April, we were approved for the necessary zoning variances, and my blood pressure came way down after that. And we're all feeling pretty good about moving forward. The design of that house is underway, being led by myself, but also working in collaboration with 10 students who are just across the way working on a giant model right now, if you want to come see it. All of this is happening in real time. We also kicked off the zoning research, as I mentioned earlier, and just a plug for what we're doing at, up on Mountaintop campus here at Lehigh. We use this project to catalyze the creation of what's called the Small Cities Lab, which is really kind of hoping to be a home for these kinds of community-facing, action-oriented projects, thinking about how small cities deal with urban challenges. As I said before, there's a huge research gap in how places like Bethlehem think about their cities. We're trying to bridge that. So, small plug. Until next January, we'll be continuing with the zoning research. As I mentioned, we'll be constructing the pilot project and learning from that, working with the city to evaluate it. And of course, we'll be having many more community meetings and, as we're calling, community design workshops, where we'll be developing a kind of a format of meeting to kind of work through design challenges with folks that come to those meetings. So super exciting time. I really appreciate your listening to our presentation, and yeah, thank you.
So while David sets me back up, thank you, Anna and Wes, for sharing about the alley houses. I know what struck me when I went to the Bethlehem zoning hearing meeting was the number of people who showed up to protest the alley houses. There is a stereotype of what low income means. A lot of people think that if you are not able to afford housing or you are low income, that you are lazy, you are, dirty, you are a whole list of other wrong stereotypes. Most people who are low income, in order to sustain their households, have to work 3 or more full-time jobs within one household in order to pay their rent. And so that's a stark number to me of people who are trying to make ends meet, and yet people who are comfortable in their homes don't want these affordable units, whether they're alley houses or whether they're, high rises, whatever that looks like to them. It's not what they want in their neighborhoods, and yet people have to and have the right to affordable housing. They have a right to, if they're hardworking residents of our communities, why should they not have places to live and be able to thrive within their families? So that's why we're all here. And thank you for being here for that. And thank you again, Anna and Wes. We're going to do a brief recap. I want to give you a recap of our Housing Summit's purpose. Our goal is to bring together policymakers, community leaders, and stakeholders to discuss and collaborate to identify solutions to the affordable housing crisis. We would like to develop an action plan with concrete recommendations to local and state leaders, landlords, and other key stakeholders, as well as craft an advocacy strategy to sustain momentum in tackling the affordable housing crisis. Let's recap our March summit. Our first session was held in March with a turnout of about 50 people. Becky Bradley was our featured speaker and provided an update on the important work that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is doing to address the housing crisis. We asked the group to share concerns and define affordable housing, and to share short and long-term goals, which you guys ranked already. We also established what the group felt were the priorities in addressing the affordable housing crisis. And now Jess is going to come up and discuss priorities and discussion topics. Do you want to lead this one?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Reimer. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Operations for Community Action. So based on all of the feedback from our last session, the Community Action team took that and we crafted a plan for the remaining summits. So we are planning on focusing on the top 3 priorities at each quarterly summit. So each summit will focus on one of those priorities, and then we'll work through ranking the short and long-term goals like you did a little bit ago, and then we'll break out and discuss those goals. So the top priorities based on the feedback from the last one are to improve existing housing stock, create affordable and attainable units, and then change local policies, ordinances, and advocate for more affordable housing. So now for the more exciting part of the day, we're gonna stop talking at you. We'd like to move into breakout groups. So we have 5 areas set up around the room, each with a number. So that's what the giant posters are sticking around on either the pillars or the window in the back. So choose a goal that you wish to discuss and then move to that area of the room. We're gonna ask each group, once you're settled, please select a note taker and someone who will present once we move to the group discussion part of it. So at this time, these are the different goals. They're also the ones that we've already talked about in terms of the short-term goals that you ranked. So just choose one of these, the numbers correspond with the area, and then move to that area, and then we'll begin the breakout discussions.
And we'll leave these up in case.
Okay, okay. I will. All right.
We have about 10 minutes until we move on to the discussion. So if you guys want to start working on wrapping up, that would be great. All right, about 5 more minutes and then we're gonna switch to sharing what the groups have talked about. 5 more minutes.
Okay, if I could get your attention. We're gonna report out. I know there was a lot of interesting conversations going on. All right, so when people go in order, group 1 always feels like they're gonna go first and group 5 always feels like they're always gonna be last. So I'm gonna go with group 5 first to report out. Who is your reporter? Okay, we're not starting with group 5. Let's move on to group 4. Can group 4 give a report out?
We have microphones at the table, so you just have to.
Test.
push the button.
Or you can use this, whichever.
So we think, the three of us think that this is the most important goal, but there was only three of us, so
That's okay. And your group did public advocacy for housing needs?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about education. We think there needs to be, broader communication of definitions of affordable housing to the public, demographics, of proposed users and housing needs and the shortage of housing. You know, not enough people are aware of this information. We need to educate both the community and the politicians on this. One of the things that we think could be addressed in advocacy and isn't being discussed with regard to affordable housing is condominiums and co-ops. You know, we have a lot of people that are, we have the baby boomers that are aging in place in their houses. You know, they have 3-4 bedroom houses. Where do they go? You know, if you get them into a smaller place like a condominium, then you have that house that's available because they're underhoused. So you have that free up for home ownership. Also educating people about church use. There's a lot of vacant churches throughout the Lehigh Valley that we think we could advocate to repurpose and rehouse people into those properties. Yeah, there's a lot of church land, I should say. We need to advocate when it comes to affordable housing when housing is being developed. In Easton alone, we have about 1,000 units that are coming online over the next couple of years, and not one of them is affordable. And there's no plan in place. And you know, we need to, again, educate these politicians that it's in their best interest to also make sure that there's affordability in any of the housing that is being built. Did I miss anything? Oh, and one last thing, you know, we think that a lot of the problems can be solved because of money. And if we push politicians and advocates to make corporations pay their fair share, not even, you know, more, but their fair share, this would solve a lot of problems. And there's a lot of money that's being left on the table because these corporations don't pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Group 4. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to go back to Group 5. Surprise! Your group was to identify how to get municipalities and entities in the region to collaborate across jurisdictions and maximize public funding with partnerships.
Does that work? That's great.
If it's green, it should work. You can pick it up, pull it closer.
Okay, cool. So most of what we talked about was kind of breaking down the barriers of the funding opportunities that come from either federal or state level, and kind of as they trickle down, like once it gets to like the individual level, most of the time, again, it gets to the point where it's like, oh, the funding's run out. So kind of removing those barriers and like improving transparency in those funding opportunities to like for the individuals and the different organizations that are helping the problem. We talked about trying to reframe the narrative of affordable housing differently, kind of attacking the issue of like, oh, the affordable housing, like the stigma of like the low income residents there, or like whoever does live there, like that they're somewhat undesired in the neighborhood. So kind of like reframing that narrative surrounding that. We talked about elevating the messages of the Housing Alliance of PA, because like the work they're doing at the state level for the housing and kind of getting their message higher. And then working, I guess, more with the county and municipal governments to funnel money more to housing. We were talking more like how while they're like the money does go to like municipal services like roads, transportation, and just like general like utilities, that while those are necessary, like maybe some of it could help out the housing issues as well. And I think that's it. Did I miss anything that you guys want to add?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, group 3, home maintenance assistance, offering support for homeowners who need help with maintaining and repairing their homes.
Okay, there we go. Speaking under duress, I told them I wasn't going to, but they made me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, our topic was home maintenance assistance. And, just from the two groups that I've heard, I can already see that they're all gonna blend together. But we came up with 6 different ideas. The first being, developing programs to address the homeowners that fall into the income gap, because there are some programs out there, but some people make too much for that, and that would constitute working with banks and municipalities for additional funding, grant funding, low-cost loans. Finding the contractors and vetting them, because there's also a trust factor there, and making sure that if these folks are going to be engaging with these contractors, that they're reputable and trustworthy. That the partner organizations have the capacity to implement these programs. So also continuing to build those partnerships and relationships within the valley. Partnering with local schools and trade schools to have the students come out and help with the projects. A lot of these students need to have hours in to get their licensing and such. So that would be a great program. Also educating the contractors, helping them with licensing, creating a larger pool of vetted contractors, giving them an incentive to help educate them, to also have them come out and help with these projects. And then training the homeowners on regular maintenance items, kind of like, Home Depot has, you can go for a day and learn how to do small things. Starting with, like how to paint, how to change an outlet, how to do small home projects that people, that they don't do because they don't know how to do. And then those small things lead to larger issues. If you don't fix the leaky faucet, then you have a bigger plumbing issue. And then having continuing programs to do that, and possibly incentives to the homeowners for attending and completing the seminars.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to group 2, redevelopment of existing buildings versus building new, and redevelopment of vacant or underused retail centers to mixed use. That was a mouthful.
Okay, can you hear me? Is it, okay, so we have the redevelopment of existing buildings and we're kind of all over, but, I have here, we said, retail space and office space is more limiting now to maybe similar to the alley housing project, maybe a pilot program of trying to bring highest and best use and turn it into more housing units. Um, creating more supportive services from shelter to rental and being a first-time buyer. Farmland and adaptive reusing of any property. And basically anything that's already existing and just maximizing, and instead of tearing it down and creating new, also preserving. So a lot of Lehigh, Northampton County, there's a lot of preservation of farmland, but maybe preserving also and saving some land to develop housing, not necessarily now, but for the future. Tax credits, incentives from the state, government, historic, or the low-income housing tax credits to developers. And that kind of ties into with deed restrictions. So a lot of the new development, it's adding to the housing supply in the area, but it's not really for the local people and the cost of it. So maybe putting deed restrictions that it's for a certain income tax bracket to maybe support the people locally and enforcing it and having the funding to enforce the deed restrictions. And parking variances is always an issue, seeing how we can work with converting the spaces of the retail or the office space and getting those variances. Looking into single room occupancy such as senior living or student dorms, not necessarily single family dwelling. It's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, group number one, opportunities to improve existing housing units.
Okay, so we talked about finding enough money in the beginning when you're rehabbing existing properties to make sure that the maintenance over the long haul ends up being affordable. So making sure materials are low maintenance and maybe high cost at the beginning, but low maintenance for the homeowner in the future. About utilizing partnerships between municipalities and organizations like CALV and Habitat. Raising buildings up to code with small safety focused changes, like making sure the insulation levels are up to a point where they're, the building's thermally okay, and making sure there's not code issues like window safety and things like that. Sustainability considerations, we talked about, like, the greenest building is the one you don't have to build. So using existing housing stock that's really well built, but improving it so that it can be used as a dwelling unit again. Preserving the history where possible. So we talked about the challenges of being in historic districts and renovating versus raising a historic building and building something new that doesn't have the character of the neighborhood. It's really important to preserve the history again when you have grant money available to rehab those homes initially. The PA Whole Home Program was a great program to utilize, and the municipalities just need to be aware of what's available and the funds available to make those housing units work. Finding buildings for adapt or reuse. Again, finding bigger buildings sometimes, like I know some of the other groups talked about, but finding a bigger building that could be broken down into more units. And zoning doesn't always allow that to happen. So think about where in your communities you can find these places where you could break down bigger buildings into more units to have more units in a more dense way within an existing larger building that may not have a function. Like one of the groups talked about under inhabited, like a 4-bedroom home with one couple living in it, things like that. Something that didn't get mentioned was public transportation, having public transportation networks in place so that the parking doesn't become as much of an issue, because when you have public transportation, you don't need a car. So if you can get from everywhere to everywhere, then it helps improve the variance issues with parking and things like that. So that's what we had to say. Did I miss anything?
Thank you. All right, so we are gonna switch now to talking about long-term goals. So we're gonna do the same thing. The areas around the room correspond with one of the goals on the screen. So choose a goal that you wish to discuss, move to that area of the room. You're welcome to stay where you are and talk about that goal. But once everyone's settled, you're going to do the same thing, determine who's going to take notes, and then who's going to present the summary at the end. And our staff's walking around collecting the top stuff so you can start off with a fresh pad of paper. So we're going to move to that, and we're going to give prompts just like we did the last time at 10 minutes and 5 minutes, and then we'll switch to discussing that. All right? And go.
Right? It's, I was gonna say.
And to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I need to work on my public speaking. For renter to homeowner. Boring. Oh, wait. Like, I feel like it ties to one too. I mean, they all tie to each other, but one and two is kind of. Nah. Yeah, they don't even wanna try. You were just saying it kind of ties to the last one.
This does, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was looking for.
Yeah. Educating on their options.
Yeah.
What do you think from the bank perspective? To new buyers. So is that like the HELOC, right? rehab home. The FHA 23K and 303B.
Yeah,
Yeah, home style.
yes.
Right, they can't just rehab it.
And
use
then,
the money,
yeah,
and then sell it.
it. Stricter guidelines. And what, how long do you have to own it? 5 years, 5 years.
I think 5 years. That's good.
Yeah, because they'll have enough equity and still make some at 5 years. So unless they let it get dilapidated the whole time, then you know, live with it for 5 years.
Yeah, and the rehab. Sometimes they have to go currently position. So it is like, there's a mortgage report and now it's either 5 or 10 years and then it's completely.
Some of the community action homes that, I've seen in the paperwork that you had to meet some income guidelines to live in that home. The deed restrictions, I guess, or the land restrictions.
With the land trust
Yeah,
preference.
so who's enforcing those or like checking on those? Is there like a
Yeah,
certain department?
We're, like, I'm from the housing counseling program, but we're part of the housing unit, the community action. And our community action homes is our, like rehab part of the agency. And we also have the Lehigh Valley Community Land Trust. And there is a staff person, like who would check,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
They,
to make sure,
the same person is still living there.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to mention, like, there's also the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency,
Yeah, the
PHFA,
FFA,
and
yeah.
they have some, like, rehab loans as well. But you have to work with like a PHFA lender. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have to qualify, but there's participating lenders with a lot of, you know, you have to work with a PHFA. They do, like rehab loan in conjunction with a, like first mortgage. And they may have also like rehab loans, like if you're an existing as well.
It kind of sounds like I mean, there is a decent amount of stuff out there. I wonder if it's just
Educating them.
people just don't have the
Then-
access, or, yeah, they're not
Educating. Yeah.
to know to apply for them.
More in the educating.
Yeah, yeah, there's income.
Yeah.
Interest rate. said they can have a 604. Income, yeah, normal. So that would be like a manual override, underwrite? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, more education on that, like beforehand, because I know the first one door lasted, what, 5 days? So I'm saying, but they didn't, however, those people found out, I mean, it wasn't known, like, there should have been a this session for that specifically, so those people were prepared when that was open. Yeah, it was like 15, yeah, that was the most. Yeah. So they probably rolled it over.
It increased from 5,000 to 10,000. For first rental to 15, yeah, so that's probably another reason why the funds quickly, like, I don't know if they actually increased the amount of funding. You know? Yeah, right. The bucket, I think the bucket was. You're tripling the amount. They said.
I didn't even know that one said fees to equity and first front door. I know first front door, and that's usually springtime.
Yeah, it's the same, it's a different first generation buyer.
See, that one I didn't even know, and I'm a realtor. So I said I didn't even know about the second one, and I'm a realtor, but yeah. But even if it's brand new, it should be like spearheaded in the communities that need it and like understanding. Because I know you guys did all the buggy boils info sessions, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, some of those I saw. Yeah. I feel like even the one that community action does, it's more of a basic of how to buy, but also there's so many programs, like it should be more towards also the grants and like these other, besides FHA, and like most people, that's what they're trying to attain, but sometimes they have to have their eyes or ears open to these other rehab loans and these down payments and things, more in depth about it, or like those programs you said, because maybe they're not ready now, maybe they'll be ready by spring, and just being educated on it more. Okay. You gotta hear them to me. I gotta walk the streets. No, it was just like, yeah, cause I do North all the time, so, but I can't spread what I don't know. Yeah. Should almost be like a PSA, you know, from the mayor or something, like, I don't know. Yeah. No, I know, but it's just like, if, you know, I don't know what I can't spread. So. Is that conventional or FHA? Oh. What's the credit on that? 6? Oh, so they just pay for closing costs? Okay. Not bad. Buying it or not? Yeah. Cause there's the PHK Fit and K Flex.
Yeah, that's.
That one I know. Yeah. I don't like those. I mean, they just take a while, but.
Yeah, I work for the housing counseling program at Community Action Lehigh Valley. I know I probably have like talked.
Yeah.
Like, Brian first has presented for us. But we do the first time home buyer seminars and, yeah, we try and, bring the light some of these programs that are out there, first time home buyers. And I know we could probably use more like rehab programs.
Yeah, I was gonna say more in the
Yeah, we
rehab
could
maybe.
actually use more, and I'm not clear right now, because, in the past, the cities like started to get out of running their own rehab programs. They didn't want to do it anymore. They were looking for the nonprofits to do it. Like CALV, runs over occupied rehab. But I think, like Northampton County, I think that now with this whole home program, it's taking up into
Yes, they do
running
have some
rehab
training there,
programs.
yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, I'm under the impression they're running it themselves. CALVs were the home repair program for Lehigh County, like they contracted our agency, but there is that, whether like your municipalities and all themselves. I think the city of Easton was redeveloping program. These rehab, I'm assuming they still do it. So if you have your Easton resident, you apply there, but yeah, income qualifications and other eligibility requirements. And then like somebody mentioned it in one of these other groups where sometimes you're just above that, like you still need money to rehab your home and your income is, you're above the range. And it's probably not enough like home repair type programs. I know if you're at 80% median income and below, there's grant assistance available. I would think if you're over 80, if there's any grant assistance, maybe like low. Or it's in that good lower interest rehab.
Is it for a first time buyer?
Not the greatest program.
And what is it called? Yeah. Okay.
That's something people could probably use for the EDU. Or the local banks are gonna have to start to tap in and figure that out. If this, takes off, that there are a lot of homeowners who love to use the equity, because I mean, that instantly adds, like, depending on
Oh,
the
it adds
cost to
to that.
build.
That's something, yeah.
Yeah, it's
That-
value, that's easy, 200-300, and if they could build it below that. Well, you said you're an architect, so how much, like, I know they're getting funding for like, I think 1 million, maybe 1.5 in total. How much is I think they're doing a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and then I think a garage on the bottom? Or
I think
is
the
it-
one that they're, the
Yeah,
best one is they're ripping out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so they have to do a
they're
tear down, and then, with the cost to build, what would you say is the estimate? Like
That's
two,
probably in the 350
three,
to build that,
350?
yeah. New
With the
homes,
tear down
new homes right now are costing anywhere from 205 to 250.
to build?
I don't know how anybody can
Yeah.
afford, even somebody like myself. I could tell you there's no way I can afford, I live in a townhouse.
Mhm.
There's no way I can afford that townhouse right now. There's just no
If there was
way.
the
I bought it at 106.
Oh, yeah.
1 years ago. I mean, it just appraised 3 years ago for like 2 million.
yeah, now it's.
I mean, it's a great investment for
Yeah.
me, but, and I put a lot of work into it, we've redone the whole house, put a deck, all
Yeah.
kinds of cool stuff, but
Because I look at Horton and Ryan, like, right now, I think it's Southside Allentown, Fort,
what they're
Ryan-
building, and they're building
yeah.
crap, and I can honestly say,
Yeah.
they're building crap for 5, 6, 700,000.
yeah, the fives, and I'm just curious, like, how much they're building at. So if they're selling for fives, they're probably set in the threes, so they're profiting like 2.
They're probably in the high 2s, low 3s, because I know the materials they
Yeah,
use.
yeah, basically, yeah.
It's more in the middle
They're
ground.
buying for the names of people that like assume the new construction, and I mean, they build a little.
And so the
fast.
trick with the developers, they get a lot of bang for the buck. So
They build a
they're-
mad,
Right, they're building the same house
Yeah.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
In a development, so they'll have 4 or 5 different models. They're all the same for the most part, so it's economy of scale.
yeah, they're buying material in bulk.
Right,
Yeah.
they're buying everything in bulk, and they're like boom, 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 buy, and then they turn around and they're selling. So maybe the first one they're not making a lot of money on, but once they hit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably like 7, 8, 9, 10, they're probably like 100%. They're making like 100% putting into it, because at that point, their team knows exactly, where the shortfalls are in the design of the construction. They're just mass producing these things.
Yeah.
What kills me about these developers on their websites, and they advertise these new homes, they talk about, 2x6 framing and R19 insulation, blah, blah. I'm like, that's code. Like, there's nothing special about what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Like, that's minimal code. Like, that's all you're telling me. But to the average home buyer,
They're like,
ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, wow, like, and I love
That's
when they
what I'm
advertise, I love when they advertise like, granite countertops. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep, nothing special. Yep. Yep. And I have a lot of friends that they'll come to me once they start having issues in their house. It's like, I'm talking to like mechanically that after 3 years breaks down, and they're past their 1-year warranty. So now they're trying to contact the developer and go, hey, and that's the issue with. Yeah, it's a done deal. And I tell people, I always say, I highly recommend anybody get a just get, and people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, oh, seriously, that's the new home. get a warranty, no idea. Like, HVAC system costs from 7, 8, or $8,000 to replace that. It's exponential.
All right, everyone, here's your 10-minute notice. So we're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes. So take the next 10 minutes to finish your discussions.
With that, I think you almost have to look at it on a grander scale. You know what I mean? Like, I think the individual home buyers isn't enough to put a dent in the problem. So I think if you're able to, like we're talking about development, if you're able to create a program for developers to go through and buy properties, sell at a little bit of an under market value, but they're still making some money on it. That's where I think you're gonna put a dent in the idea. You know what I mean? Because
I feel like Becky did mention something, but I wasn't sure if it was geared towards more the developers who've been in it for so long, or like the higher end developers, or it was geared more towards maybe someone wanting to enter.
I think it could be any, you know. I think if you have some of these bigger developers so that making hands down money on the stuff they're already doing, they might be a little more open to, okay, we're gonna take a hit on, or we're gonna partner with a group like CLV or whatever, and, you know, work on doing that kind of thing. Because they know they're making money on their normal development, whatever. But again, I think if banks or grants or whatever and put something out where a developer can, maybe it's in their first time development, a 2 or 3, group that wants to, is really passionate about it, but doesn't have the means to do it. They get all the ideas, but don't have the financial backing. Now you provide them financial backing, and they just start a process, as they're building them, they're turning around and reselling, so, and they're still making a little bit, and then they take that little bit and put that towards the next one, towards the next one. That, I think, would put a bigger dent in the whole issue than the individual pieces. Companies like guess what? Now you're using less of our electricity, you're helping us. You know what I mean? It's just like the whole solar program. Solar program's a little bit of a racket, but if you put solar panels in, you're technically helping the grid, because we can't build electrical plants, A, fast enough to support what we have, and B, there's so much red tape, that's why we still have a lot of our old.
All right, here's your 5-minute notice. So in 5 minutes, we're going to switch over to discussion and report out.
Yep. Yeah, little packet. Yep.
And then the installation of the window.
Yep.
I forget what, they just sent it to you.
Yep. It even had a shower head too, didn't it? I remember a pack I got. Yep.
So someone stop forcing it.
It was wild. Yeah. Yeah, that's back when they were, CFL, weren't any better either, but.
Yes.
But, you know, I look at that as a time, like CFLs was a stepping stone to the other. You know what I mean? Like, we had to get off of our incandescents. And the only way to do that was to go from the to the CFLs. And then from the CFLs to the. If you don't remember, the CFLs were a spiral. You couldn't break it because there was sodium something or other in them. That was really bad for the environment. But they lasted forever, you know? So, and we had to do that transition in order for the price of LEDs to come down, whereas now really. Whereas 10 years ago, because they're cold. Well, there's two different kinds, warm and cold, so, but yeah, my wife's the same, she doesn't like the color. But they last forever. So I think we're going through the same, I don't want to go on my soapbox here, but I think we're going the same thing with electric cars. The electric cars is not the end all be all. It's a stepping stone that you need to take to get off of the car.
Okay, if we can start going back to your seats. Well, actually, stay where you are. Don't go back to your seats. We're gonna start asking people to report out. All right, we're gonna start with group number 1 this time.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing that we came up with was a vocational training program, start in the high school for rehab projects, for maybe some of these alley program interns that you already had. But I spoke about, I'm from the Redevelopment Authority in the City of Easton, and we have a hard time finding trades. We've had a really hard time finding brick masons. And so we thought that if you could start with these vocational training programs in the high school and teach the students how to do the trades, that maybe we could further this goal of
Workforce
doing
development type.
yeah,
Okay.
the single-family detached homes. The second thing we came up with was create communities of co-ops and condominiums for the overhoused. And then people that are in houses with 3 bedrooms for one person, we could create the co-ops and condominiums for them and then free up the large houses for young families, people with kids, et cetera. Another idea we had was use abandoned malls for housing. One benefit was security. Another benefit was the flat nature of the mall footprint. And we thought that that would help with being able to do the co-ops and the condominiums from the second goal. The fourth thing we came up with was legislation to limit corporations purchasing abandoned property. I've personally noticed, and I don't know a whole lot about this issue, but I've personally noticed that a lot of corporations will swoop in and take these affordable homes. We try to buy things and they can outbid us every time because we just don't have the money. And then we also felt that it was much more cost effective to rehab a home rather than trying to build from the ground up.
Awesome. Thank you. Group number 2. When you take the notes, you're forced into being the one to speak sometimes. Is it on? I don't know.
And just one important note, you don't have to hold the button down. If you just toggle it on, it'll turn green, and then you can toggle it off when you're done.
Oh, there.
And you can pull it
Can you
closer
hear-
to you.
Can you hear
Well,
me now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
better. Thanks.
So we have restoring properties for home buyers, and there's a lot of first-time home buyer seminars and info sessions. So we concentrated on getting more education on the rehab loans that are available out there as well, besides first-time home buyers. For example, the FHA 203K, 203B, home style, and more information on down payment assistance with the rehab loans. An example of some that were out this year was the first front door. Previously, they were offering $5,000, and this year they offered 15,000, and you can combine it with some of the programs and putting stricter guidelines that you can only use these programs for a minimum that you have to live there for 5 years. More programs also on home repair, either through the county, through Lehigh, or through community action or PPL. They offer the weatherization, educating on the materials in a home, and making sure that the homes that they're buying, that they understand the quality and the material being used in the home. Creating a program for developers to increase the housing supply.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I should have be reading what the topics were. So yours was restoring properties for home buyers. And thank you. So group 3, rebuild public housing with a focus on mixed income sites with amenities and social services.
Guess it's me again. So, one thing that is a big component for redeveloping public housing, there are two components right now. One is RAD conversion, which if you live in Allentown, you saw a lot of their public housing being converted and rebuilt. But our focus is and push should be for Choice Neighborhood Program. It's basically what used to be the Hope 6 program. If you look at Overlook Park and Neston Heights, Overlook Park in Allentown and Neston Heights in Easton, it's the next reiteration of it. Both Easton and Bethlehem are in the process of, in the near future, if the Choice Neighborhood Program continues to exist, to apply for funding. Last year, the funding was at $375 million. This past year was cut to $75 million. So we don't know the viability of the program moving forward. But our focus should be on to advocate for this. The government cut it, and construction costs all went up. When you create a Choice Neighborhood community, and not only tears down and replaces the public housing, but it also provides a mixed community that basically fills the gap up until home ownership. You have a mixed income community. You have a lot of case management built into the program. It adds a lot to the infrastructure that's needed. There's case management for everybody that's involved with the program. So it provides those needs. When you rebuild this housing, you also provide a component where you can have buildings that offer healthcare, social services, counseling services. It's just not bricks and mortar. It also offers a lot of those programs that are needed. So it provides opportunities for the Office of Aging to be in, for education, wellness, and mental health issue support. usually provides some food stability, case management, childcare. We all know that childcare is an issue. And transportation, and u- also usually has a community center. So it not only creates new housing, but it creates a whole new community and businesses and stuff. So that's where we think the public housing should focus on is supporting these choice neighborhood programs and pushing that and advocating for that. Again, back to advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Okay, group 4, more funding for local municipalities to address owner-occupied rehab affordable housing units.
Okay, here we go. Number one was show us the money. No. Actually, one of the things we thought was capacity considerations for when you're funding local municipalities and charities. Funding for capacity for admin and intake seems to be a thing that is a difficult thing to get through all of our different funders.
Amen.
And we thought that was important. I also thought instead of there's an awful lot of talk around workforce, which is great. But one of the things we don't develop is develop the existing small contractors into larger contractors. It's a much faster way to get contractors into the programs and getting the work done. You know, if you develop a carpenter, it's 8 to 10 years before you'll become a contractor. If you find a small contractor in development, you can probably get it going a lot quicker than that. Another thing was universal funding to create universal shared application across agencies and municipalities. One of the biggest hangups is time-wise on getting stuff done, and that's part of capacity is getting all that stuff done. Another thing that came up for us was funding for households in the 80 to 120% AMI range. It's one of the ranges we don't talk about a lot, but a lot of those people can't afford to get a $17,000 roof done on their house or something like that. But those were the main things.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. And group 5, change local ordinances to hold landlords accountable.
I don't know how you all maneuver these large pads in these this microphone, but so with any sort of ordinance, of course, in order for it to be effective, we need to have a good enforcement mechanism. So we want to make sure. It seems like a lot of the bigger cities in the region have rental inspection and license programs, but moving that into the smaller municipalities as well. But also a big part of that is improving the enforcement and improving the quality of the inspection. We had a suggestion that municipalities, especially smaller municipalities, can contract with third parties to do these inspections and have the inspection fee cover the fee for that third party to come in and do it. Also with that, we need to make sure, while generally those are voluntary programs for people to, or, you know, not voluntary, but in practice voluntary, how do we find those rental properties that are unregistered? We didn't really come up with a solution there, but just a question. And then we've also found that a lot of landlords were only improving the property when it came to selling them, when it came time for them to sell. And then thinking a little bit more about how do you incentivize registration, we had a example come up where maybe those who are doing what they're supposed to and have good inspections for 2 times in a row get rewarded by having less frequent inspections. And then we also toyed around with the idea that maybe people could, you know, move an inspection out if they went through some sort of landlord training like CALV does currently. We also talked about having money or low interest loans for repairs for landlords, but in exchange for those programs, also cap rent increases to make sure that they're not just flipping those and renting them for more, maybe even having the landlord's cost share at 50-50. Thank you. And then we also talked about that cities have the ability to kind of go harder than they tend to. I guess there's a program where they could take landlords, they can impose criminal sanctions for failure to comply with municipal code. So those really bad landlords, kind of making an example that, hey, we're not tolerating this type of behavior anymore. We really need to make sure that our rental units are safe and habitable. And then also making sure that we have displacement programs so that those who may be displaced have a place to go or have support. And then also having legal support for the tenants so that they can feel more comfortable speaking up about the condition of their home.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. So before I invite Jess up here to close us out, and thank you all for all of these ideas. We're going to compile all of this and make it available before the next housing summit. I wanted to personally thank my staff. Jessica Reimert, my Deputy Executive Director for Operations, Alicia Fowlin, my Deputy Executive Director for Human Resources, David Chevalier, we have a lot of Deputy Executive Directors. Deputy Executive Director for Information Technology, Barbara Koshard, wherever she is, she might be gone already. She's hiding there. Hi, Barbara. My Deputy Executive Director for Development, and Ella Madrazo, the Director of Communications and Marketing. Without them, this would not have gone so smoothly. They are a wonderful team to work with, and I appreciate them dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. So before we wrap up, and as you're getting ready to leave, now that you've had a chance to discuss as groups and hear the input and feedback from other groups on the short and long-term goals, we would like you to take a few minutes to take the second set of dots that we gave you and place them next to the short and long-term goals that you think should be the priorities now. Basically, we want to see if there was a shift in perspective after hearing the discussions today. So we want to thank you for being here today and for partaking in the discussion and collaboration of addressing the affordable housing crisis in the Lehigh Valley. Our next summit is scheduled for Friday, September 13th, at the same time and place. So we will be back here in September. And so as Dawn had mentioned, once the information from today has been collected, and we'll put all of your notes and stuff like that into digital format, we will distribute that out to those on the email list, as well as get it posted up on our website like we did the previous one. So we look forward to seeing you in September, and please feel free, if there's anyone else you think should be in the room, please feel free to invite them and have them join us. So as you guys are making your way out, if you could just re-rank your goals. If they're still the same, that's fine, put your dots back there. But if it's shifted from the discussion, place your dots at the new goals. Thank you, everyone. There might be
I think I made everybody instead of associate executive directors. I think I made them deputy.
Yeah, you did.
Giving up promotions.
You get a, she's like Oprah. You get a promotion. I was gonna say. Like I told people before, don't worry about covering up the wording. We have that. We know what that is. Thank you. See you again. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Brenda. Just pause it or stop?
You can stop it.